So the Philadelphia Eagles have several potential weaknesses that, if played right, the Chiefs can use to their advantage and get this Super Bowl 59 W. But to be fair, the Chiefs have some weaknesses of their own, and in today's video, we'll look at these weaknesses from both teams after I talk through the injury report, as well as a surprising Chiefs player having his window to return from IR opened up this week. But first, how about those? Today's video, we got a lot in here. I have a conversation with Josh Davis of the Philly Special. He's got a YouTube channel of over 100,000 subs, covers the Birds on basically a daily basis, kind of how I cover the Chiefs here. So we get into a conversation where we kind of compare weaknesses of each team on how we could see our own team losing. It's very interesting. You guys are going to really enjoy that. But before we even get there, I want to address a couple of things, some Chiefs news, and then a lot of you have been asking about my eye. My eye is all red because this hoodie drawstring flew around somehow when I was moving my arm to walk into the back room, and it slapped my eyeball on Monday, and it since has gone red and it looks horrible, but it feels fine. That's that. Okay. So my eye's fine. I'm not dying, nothing crazy. Okay. The next news I want to get into, it's kind of random, but Skyy Moore has been activated to return from injured reserve. He's there at practice. You can see him there working on returning punts. All the receivers, they warm up practicing punt returns and kick returns. I don't think he's actually going to be doing that in a game. And I don't even think they're going to bring Skyy Moore back to the roster. He's most likely an added body to the practices that they have for the scout team, most likely in particular, because when you open up somebody's return window, their 21-day to return, they can start practicing again with the team. I would be really surprised if Skyy Moore returns, but this lady here, you have to hear what she says, because according to her, the Eagles actually need a game plan for his return.
I think that he'll be activated, but something that the Eagles will have to account for in their game planning. Probably don't want to see him again, and something to keep in mind, though.
Yeah.
All right, listen, lady. The Eagles did not care when they saw Skyy Moore's window to return open up. I promise you, they didn't even blink. They didn't even think twice about it, okay? But Skyy Moore, no disrespect to him, he's a Super Bowl champion, caught a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl, but I promise you, they were not really tripping about that, okay? Next order of news, I wanted to take a look at the injury report for the Kansas City Chiefs, and then we'll get right into the Eagles injury report, and that's where I take off in my conversation with Josh Davis of the Philly Special. But before we get to that, I do want to point out that per Fox 4 KC, multiple sources have confirmed that if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, there is not going to be a rally available for the public because of the shooting that happened last year. Instead, if they win, the celebration is going to begin with an exclusive gathering at Arrowhead Stadium for players, their families, the governor, and Mayor Quentin Lucas. And that's rather unfortunate. I understand what happened last year was tragic. It was. There was a life lost, and you can't dismiss that or downplay it. But it is unfortunate that the selfish, dumb actions of a few individuals when the shots rang out after the rally has now caused the rally for this year, if the Chiefs win, to completely be canceled. And all these people are now not going to get to watch and celebrate with the players on the stage at Union Station like they normally do. So that is a big bummer. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments down below if you feel like, hey, they overreacted or not. It's the right call. This is what happens when you do dumb things like this, dumb decisions like this, even though it was just the mistakes of a few people or the intentional dumb decisions of a few people. That's what happens. Now, if we get to the injury report, which is the next thing I wanted to touch on real quick, I wouldn't be overly concerned about any injury of any person on either team. And that's where I start my conversation with Josh talking about the injuries of the Eagles. But for the Chiefs, I mean, Brian Cook, full go. Patrick Mahomes, full go. Brian Cook's a new addition, I believe, with the quad. Jawan Taylor with the knee. That's not new, but he was limited on Thursday, as was Skyy Moore. Again, they just opened his 21-day window to return. Jalen Watson was also on there with his ankle. That's not a surprise. He broke it not that long ago and is already back and playing. And I did want to add real quick that the Chiefs had an update to their injury report today. That was yesterday's. And the only thing that changed is Jawan Taylor went from limited to full. My guess is yesterday they were indoor, so the turf, they kept him limited because of the knee. They were potentially back outside today, so he was a full go. And then The only thing that changed is Skyy was limited again, but listed as doubtful, which basically confirms to me they are probably not bringing him back to the 53-man roster from IR. How are you guys looking on the injury front? Because, like, I see a bunch of injuries on there, but I know it's like 2 days ago was like estimated practice, like nobody practiced. But how are you feeling so far about most of these injuries? Because I know like Cam Jurgens, Dickerson, they're banged up. Hurts with his knee, like, it didn't seem to bother him in the conference championship, so I'm sure he's fine for the Super Bowl. Goddard with the ankle, like how are the injuries looking for your team?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. I will say the biggest thing for me is, as you mentioned, with Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson, because if there's been any issues with the pass blocking and pass protection, it's typically the interior offensive line. So you already have some, iffy spots there. Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson have played well, same for Mekhi Becton. But again, when it goes to pass protection, if Jalen Hurts gets pressure, it's typically up the middle. And so you got Landon Dickerson. If people did not see, have not seen the clips, I mean, he's basically playing on one leg in the NFC Championship. Yeah, the dude had a massive brace. He couldn't do more than maybe a couple steps in the run game, even pass pro. He's kind of like hobbling out there. He did good, but I mean, was so injured by the end of the first half that he had to basically get subbed out for Cam Jurgens, who initially was ruled out because of a back injuries himself, and he had to gut it out. So I think Cam Jurgens, the idea, what we've heard, rumors, speculation, is that he should be okay with the back injury, and both will play. I'm just questioning on. I mean, it looks like a very significant knee injury from what Landon Dickerson's dealing with. I knew he'll be better, and he did say he's going to play. But, I get a little bit anxious, I guess, when I'm thinking about the idea of Chris Jones trying to match up with that, a little bit of mismatch on that side. But overall, I would say that's the biggest concern injury-wise. Everyone else, I expect them to play. Devontae Smith popped up on the injury report with a hamstring. He's done that occasionally throughout the season, but it's not anything. It's never been anything major. He finished the game last Sunday, so I expect that to be okay. But again, whenever it comes to the biggest thing for this team, Saquon, the running game, blocking in general, those would probably be the two biggest focuses, just Cam Jurgens, Landon Dickerson on the O-line.
I'm in the same boat, at least in my mindset of who I'm watching on the injury report, because you guys have made it clear you want to win and dominate in the trenches. Howie Roseman has done a really good job of building your team in the trenches and then surrounding key pieces around that. But that seems like to me, based on the injury report, if we want to talk about ways that the Eagles, from your perspective, could lose this game, would be maybe the interior of the D-line for the Chiefs being able to take advantage if these guys aren't completely healthy and get to Hurts. You know what's surprising to me, and then I'd love your thoughts on this. I don't study NFC teams like I do AFC teams until we get to the playoffs, but I was just so surprised to see Hurts was sacked like the 6th most of any quarterback in the NFL, and you guys are 32nd in percentage of pass plays ran. So I looked at that, and I was like, okay, that's 8 or whatever. It's like 5-7 more sacks than Patrick Mahomes got sacked this year, and the Chiefs throw a piss ton. So I was pretty surprised by that, and that could be a way that I could see the Chiefs taking some advantage there of the Eagles.
Yes, I'm in total agreement with you. Like you say, this is an unusual spin because normally I'm like, hey, here's the strengths of the squad, but I like this. This is good. This is a way to air out maybe some anxiety, some nervousness, just any skepticism. Not that there's a lot, but just, there's a little bit. Hurts throws the ball, or time to throw is second to last in the league. So, that just speaks for itself. So the reason he's taking those sacks is just holding on to the football for forever. For me, it's a combination of, like I mentioned with the offensive line, if you have issues, especially on the interior of the offensive line, and if Kellen Moore does not scheme up quick throws and quick plays for Jalen Hurts, you saw that against Washington. Washington was night and day difference. I mean, I'll be honest. If people had not watched the Eagles most of the season and then they watched that game, that has not been what the passing games looked like. Kellen Moore had a lot more quick hitters for Jalen and a lot more of single side of the field views and reads for him to instead of having to go to the backside, take time in the pocket, and you saw it pay dividends. My thought is like, was that just a change because of, Jalen Hurts and his potential knee injury, which he ran a lot better than I anticipated, so it's probably not a huge concern. Or Kellen Moore's been taking all these interviews. I hate the idea of interviewing ever, but especially during the playoffs on that side. Was he distracted before the Rams game? And then he didn't have any interviews before the Commanders game. Was that enough to get him more focused on the game plan prep? I don't think so. That is something that people are buying into. But whatever it is, that is probably one of the biggest concerns when it talk about the offensive side of the football. If Kellen Moore dials up these, home run shot plays that are long developing routes, and we're not getting the protection on the interior, I could see it, more sacks, potential for turnovers. The Eagles have not turned the football over in the playoffs, but that would be the one, I guess, major concern offensive side.
And before I get to the rest of this awesome interview with Josh, I did want to shout out the sponsor of today's video and the season-long partner of the channel, Underdog. Underdog's not only the best and easiest place to play fantasy sports, but any new sign-up will get up to $1,000 in bonus cash, plus a free Travis Kelce pick exclusive to new signups in the lobby, and that's if you use code HBTC. And one thing I wanted to promote and share with you is something that they are doing. It's a promo. It's up to a $10 entry, okay? It's their no sweat, basically, pick'em. And you could choose 2 to 4 picks. It's a $10 max placement on these pick'ems, but if you win, you get whatever the multiplier is, but if you lose, you get your credit back. So this sounds like a no-brainer move to me. You can also see we've been winning lately. We've hit 4 of the last 5. One was a rescue, but then we hit 3 of 4 last weekend. So if you want to join in on the fun, link is in the description down below, or you can also scan the QR code. Since you just mentioned it, one of my concerns on how the Chiefs could lose this game, and it was a concern for Buffalo too, I said it, was losing the turnover battle. Well, the Chiefs did manage to win over Buffalo in spite of turning the ball over. Weird fumble there happened between Mahomes and Pacheco. The Bills, meanwhile, they fumbled 4 times and recovered all 4. Like, what kind of turnover luck, like madness is that? But I think my thoughts are the same. Against a team like the Eagles that will grind it out in the run game, they'll have a lot of long sustaining drives, and they'll wear your defense down. If you turn the ball over on offense, the Chiefs, talking about the Chiefs, if they turn the ball over on offense and give the defense less rest and the Eagles offense more opportunities to get on the field and just wear them down with Saquon and the other backs that they have back there, that is going to be a problem in my eyes and would be a cause for concern in this game if I see the Chiefs turn the ball over once, twice. Your guys' turnover differential is pretty decent. It was like top 5. It was like plus 16 or something, or somewhere around there, right? Plus 12, plus 16. Yeah. I mean, it was good. And that's because, just what you said, you haven't turned the ball over in the playoffs, and then you capitalize on turnovers because of, I feel like, how good your secondary is.
Yeah, it's been night and day. I mean, getting Quinion Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, having some rookies play like they're vets out there has been unreal. I mean, the fact that this defense, like, it's just insanity, I don't anticipate we'll get a rerun of the Super Bowl in 22, because just the defense is there. I never know. I mean, maybe the field issues as people like to bring up, because again, there's those conspiracies of refs and fields and holding calls, non-holding calls that people like to throw out there. But again, the better teams overcome. But I will say that, like, this is a different unit from a 1-year transition with the Eagles. I mean, 30th ranked defense last year to number 1 defense, depending on which metric, but number 1, number 2 defense in the NFL. It's like night and day difference. But the biggest thing for me is, and you mentioned the turnover differential, is it's gotten better since they've gotten into playoff, like a plus 10 takeaways, 0 turnovers. And you're seeing a defense that's got more confidence to go like, okay, we're making the tackle, but every tackle, it's try to punch the football out. So I'm hoping that can get there. I would say that the concern on the flip side, because as we're still talking about potential weaknesses here, is does that lead to an inopportunity, or is it too aggressive to try to take the football away, that they're giving up some bigger plays or giving up openings to an Andy Reid, a Patrick Mahomes that have extra time to prep and plan, and it's going to be quick hitters? That's my concern, because we've seen a lot of the secondary play well. But if you get C.J. Gardner-Johnson, a safety, or Reed Blankenship, the other safety, matched up in a 1-on-1, it's a night and day difference. And Zach Ertz, let's be honest, Zach Ertz was able to just eat and have whatever he wanted in that NFC Championship game. So, no offense to Ertz, but Travis Kelce's a little bit better than Ertz is at this point in their careers. So that is probably the bigger concern to me, is do they have a focus? Oren Burks, you guys know, played in the Super Bowl last year and was targeted 9 times, gave up 9 catches for like 80, 90 yards. So, it doesn't get worse than that. And with him being the other linebacker, the middle of the field, whether it's those safeties or the linebackers, that'd probably be the bigger weakness, I would say, at least on the defensive side. So I don't know. Mahomes-Kelce combination, it's usually pretty unstoppable in the playoffs. What else is new?
They did a good job last week of shutting Kelce down, but that's when you found success elsewhere. And I think that's just the style of Buffalo's defense. Their secondary was the weak link. Taylor Rapp was out. Benford got concussed again. They took advantage of DeMar Hamlin. I always want to say the rookie, but he's not. He was drafted the same year as McDuffie. Kaiir Elam. It's the guy that doesn't play, like unless he has to. He came in, and but that's opposite for you guys. So your secondary is way better. Quinion Mitchell is. Dude, he's great. Cooper DeJean holding it. There's not a lot of white DBs in the NFL, so he's holding it down for the pasty guys, and he's doing a great job too. So, yeah, that your secondary is going to be way more locked down. I think you guys play more zone coverage, which is typically where hello Kelce, hello maybe Juju Smith-Schuster, who had a bit of a game last week. They're better at finding soft spots in zone. And so I'll be curious to see that matchup. Another weakness that I had for the Chiefs on like how they could struggle or lose this game, I said the turnover battle. I also said fall behind early. Obviously, they've been able to pretty successfully come back from behind in playoff games. I mean, when they played each other in Super Bowl 57, Chiefs were down 10 at the half. They came back and won, but it's just a different beast over there with Saquon Barkley on offense. And if you go down early, it's going to be hard, I think, could be hard to catch up, especially with Saquon back there. And that was another thing that I mentioned. If Saquon Barkley goes for like 140 yards and 2 touchdowns, like I think you have to do all that you can to stop him if you want to win this game. And I listened to your video from the other day, and yeah, so they gave up some yards to Joe Mixon in the Texans game. They gave up yards to James Cook, who had a great game. But the thing with the Bills game in particular, it was do what you can to not allow Allen to burn you. They had double spies on some plays. I was like, double spies? That's crazy. They had 2 guys spying Allen, 1 for each side. And so they were doing what they could to take away Josh Allen, which I would say is the Buffalo Bills like X factor. If everything else goes perfect for the defense, Josh Allen can burn you. Well, it's no offense to Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, like those guys are great, so is Goddard. But I would say like that X factor for you guys, at least how I'm looking at it, is Saquon. You could block perfect, but he can make a man miss. He could break a tackle. He'll jump over somebody backwards and spin move cross field. He is a freak, one of the best players I've ever seen play the game. And if you cannot do all you can to take him away, that's where I would fear the Chiefs would lose this game or could lose this game. And I think they're going to come into it doing all they can to stop Saquon, and you might find a little bit more success in the pass game because of it.
Just about every team has either said that in a way or shape or form in a press conference. But I am going to be curious because Casey's, have they allowed, I thought I saw a stat, like 100-yard rusher in playoff games. It hasn't happened in like forever, right? So, I mean, Spags knows what he's doing. He's a good DC for a reason. But I'm curious to see because it's like the idea of stacking the box, not that that's where you go. It might create more levels, but a lot of the teams like Commanders try to do that. The Rams try to stack the box, and that's when you get those home run hitters, that 78-yard run, just take it off and go because you get to the second level and it's gone. But I think so. I feel like it is definitely the identity. I mean, it's no surprise to anybody. It's the identity. Saquon could have very possibly broken the Eric Dickerson record, held him out for the last game of the season, but to the level that he's gone, I love the fact that, the trolling of Joe Shane, the Giants GM, and John Mara, his clip from Hard Knocks of being like, I'm not going to sleep good if Saquon goes to Philly. And of course, here he is doing what he is. Like, well, what did you expect was going to happen? But, they bet on Daniel Jones, and that just happened. But I think that to get to this point, you see what it means to Saquon, you see what it means for this squad, and you get the behind-the-scenes look. And they made that adjustment back, like I said, going back to week 5 was kind of like the turning point. You had the bye week come out of that, and it had been more focused on the passing game. You're still running Saquon, but Jalen was being asked a lot more of let's run the offense through Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. come out of the bye week and say, no, we're going to be a running football team. And since then, the numbers have been, as you point, I mean, just ridiculous. You're not throwing the football too much, still taking some sacks. So they're looking for kind of that home run hitter where it was like, okay, run with Saquon. If we don't play action, take a deep shot. But that would be still kind of feeding into it as well. They're going to lean into it to Saquon quite a bit. My concern to shift on that side would be if they can't run the football with Saquon, if the Chiefs are successful, and there hasn't been too many teams. The Cleveland game was under 100 yards, not a good yards per carry. I can't remember off the top of my head. And in the Steelers game, same thing. But can the offense stick to a good game plan of, okay, we're going to take what the defense gives us, or is it too much of home run shots? That is the potential concern, because then you're getting in the area of, like, again, we said, it feeds into the pass blocking. Are the Eagles able to contain that? I think that they can, because I feel like we're seeing a little bit of a move on from this offense and what we saw against Washington, and Jalen being confident. But again, if you shut down Saquon, then you start asking other things there. And I don't know. There's an element. There's a potential weakness, like I say, that I could maybe see in that frame of reference.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting thing. Like, it's much respect to the Eagles because they're there again for a reason. You know, I will say, this is not me defending, or this is me defending the Chiefs now. It's not a weakness, so I'm breaking my rule. But it's just like the Commanders are not the Chiefs. The Chiefs are not the Commanders. It's two different ball games, at least on defense. Like, the Commanders outpunted their coverage, or that's probably not the proper phrase, but like nobody expected them to make the conference championship. And Jaden Daniels is great, but like they don't have guys. Like, they still have some roster building to do. They have a few guys, but there's not a lot of guys, especially on the defensive side of the ball, where I think Spags and the Chiefs and some of their guys back there, Trent McDuffie, if he's not the best corner in the NFL, he's top 3. Maybe you could put him behind PS2. I mean, you've got Chris Jones. George Karlaftis is wreaking havoc in the playoffs right now. I mean, so it's that. Jalen Watson returned. Spags being able to cook and hopefully get some confusing looks for Hurts on definite passing situations. And that's where I'm intrigued to see this. I would be curious to know your thoughts. Like, where are you leaning right now towards a score prediction and how you think the game could play out? I did an interview with the Bills creator the week before the AFC Championship, and he said he thinks the Bills win by 9. And I was like, I don't see how you could. I had the Chiefs winning by 3, and they won by 3. But just how do you feel like this game could play out between these two teams? I know there's still a week to go, and there's more we could study and prep for. But where's your mind at in that regard, and how you see the game playing out?
Yeah, I'll give an early one, but yeah, it'll probably change as we get closer. But I think it's going to be close. I think both teams, obviously, really good to get here. We saw a really close game the first time they met in the Super Bowl last year, even though it was a little rocky start. I guess rocky start for both teams. We won in Kansas City, and then Sirianni made sure to celebrate. I feel like this game, though, is going to be closer, much closer than the Commanders, but I think it'll be closer and a lower scoring game because I'm buying into the defense. I mean, the change that the Eagles have had, like we talked about a little bit, but linebacker in Zach Bond, I mean, dude's an all-pro, and he was playing special teams for the Saints a couple years ago. Like, he came out of nowhere. Vic Fangio was like, yeah, you know what? I think I'm going to get him, and he's going to become an all-pro linebacker. But what he's done and his versatility has completely changed the defense, combined with some good draft picks. Nolan Smith on the edge, I mean, I'm his biggest supporter, but everybody was calling him a bust last year. And his pressure, the way that he can get to the quarterback, he runs a 4.3. We used to get beat a lot more on running quarterbacks, and he really contained Jaden Daniels when he's been on the field. So not that Mahomes has that same speed, but we all know the take off and run and what he did even in the last Super Bowl whenever we were playing you guys. So I think it'll be a little bit more defensive battle. I do think it'll be a close one. I'm going to say 24-20. I'm going to say somebody scores a touchdown. Eagles, of course, but I'm saying get a touchdown late, take that lead. So got to pick my Eagles. 24-20. How about you?
I feel like I've seen the Chiefs go up against a lot of great defenses in the playoffs, defenses that on paper they don't have business beating. Think of Super Bowl 54 with the Niners. I mean, even the Niners in 58 was great. The Eagles, like you guys had a great defense. And I just feel like they've always exceeded my expectations on what I thought. I think I'm done picking lower scoring games. I think I'm going to do like 31-27 Chiefs. But I think you do need, I said this last week in the AFC Championship, I think the Chiefs need about 30 points if they want to beat the Buffalo Bills. The Eagles are the 6th scoring offense, and they're they've got talent over there, and they can get things done in both aspects of the game. A.J. Brown I love the fact that he was reading that book on the sideline. He's one of my favorite wide receivers. Like, I always thought, like, man, what if A.J. Brown on draft night was traded to the Chiefs? Like, what would that be like in this offense? Obviously, that doesn't matter. But I like A.J. Brown a lot. Devontae Smith, he made the Chiefs pay last year. He had 100 yards or 99 yards or something like that. Something else, it's different teams. But last year, the Chiefs turned the ball over 3 times in pretty crucial situations, if my memory serves me right. Kelce got a ball punched out in the red zone. Mahomes threw a pick in the end zone. And then the third wasn't a turnover, but the key thing was that MVS dropped late. And the Chiefs still only lost by 4. Again, different teams, not even close to the same defense for the Eagles. But the Chiefs flipped that switch in the playoffs from an offensive standpoint. And I think this might be a little bit higher scoring than we think, just because of how both of these teams are able to turn it on. So we'll see. We'll see who's right. We'll see who's wrong. Either way, it seems like you got respect for the Chiefs. It's going to be close. You have the Eagles winning, and then I got my opposite. I respect the Eagles. I got the Chiefs winning. It's hard for me to bet against the Chiefs, man. Obviously I rarely would because I'm a Chiefs fan, but just seeing what they do week in and week out, especially in the playoffs. Mahomes is coming off of one of his best ever games in the playoffs, which is kind of insane to think about. And then he's had 3 of his highest DVOA performances over the last 4 games. So they're definitely turning it on in the right time. But this is not a team, talking about the Eagles, that you can sleepwalk past. You've got to be firing and executing on all cylinders. If Kelce fumbles in the red zone, Mahomes throws a pick in the end zone, and then a huge wide open drop for a touchdown happens, the Chiefs are not winning this game. No way.
No doubt. No, not at all. But I will say the reason I did not pick a 3-point spread, I know that you didn't either, but the field goal kicking, I forgot to mention that's the one area. Jake Elliott has been atrocious, especially from 50 plus. He used to be automatic, and he can't make one to save his life. He's been better in domes, but dude's just been, he's been like Justin Tucker level of the yips, maybe even worse. Like, and it's a lot of extra points that he's missed, but I just, if we get to the point of needing 3 points at the end, I'm going to be a little bit concerned. So hopefully it doesn't rely on that. But like you said, both teams, even with some of the weaknesses that we feel, this is unusual because I don't normally talk about this way, and you don't either. But I think, 2 of the hottest teams take care of business, beat teams that, people may be picking against. So I'm excited. I think it's going to be another good one. And of course, we got to take Eagles. I don't know when I wouldn't take Eagles, and I'm sure I don't know when you wouldn't take the Chiefs. But of course, that's why we're the fans following our teams, and they barely lost to teams this season anyway. So
I talked to an Eagles fan yesterday who actually said he thinks that the Eagles lose, not by much. He doesn't want them to lose, but he said if it comes down to some special teams kick, he said basically it comes down to this. He trusts Harrison Butker more than he trusts Jake Elliott. And I actually really respected his take on that. I was like, I did not expect you to say that, but Jake Elliott, he has been better in the playoffs for what that's worth. I don't know what his average distance on these kicks have been, but he did struggle pretty bad in the regular season. And Harrison Butker had his own struggles after coming back from IR, but he's been great. So yeah, it always is. I think against a team or 2 teams this good, it's going to come down to every point matters. And yeah, when you make it to the Super Bowl, every single point is going to matter. We already know, especially when the games get pretty close and down to the wire. That's how the Chiefs like to play it. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below about this conversation with Josh about Super Bowl 59 between the Chiefs and the Eagles. What are some weaknesses that you found intriguing based on what he shared, and vice versa? Then make sure to give him a follow or a sub on YouTube, or at least check out his content leading to the Super Bowl, because we are going to be very focused about what the Eagles are going to be up to. He's got great content. So again, let me know your thoughts on that in the comments down below. Give him a follow. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?